I can hear you now. Ding dong, the Wicked Witch is dead. Yeah, it's time to celebrate because this time it's official.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
Kathleen Kennedy, the face that killed 1,000 franchises. Okay, not 1,000, more like 3, but 3 iconic franchises have been flushed down the toilet thanks to this old bag, and now after the total annihilation of some beloved franchises, she's stepping away. Ah, the rat has left a sunk ship. Good job, Kathleen Kennedy. Good job. Now, I know you've heard this one at least a few dozen times. So have I. For at least 5 years, people have been running around claiming that Kathleen Kennedy would be stepping down by the end of the week. Well, many weeks later, like 260 of them, Kathleen Kennedy is finally stepping down. Here's the story. The end of an era will soon be upon us, as a report from Puck says Lucasfilm boss Kathleen Kennedy plans to retire before the end of the year. Kennedy joined Lucasfilm in 2012 as the co-chair alongside Star Wars creative George Lucas. A few short months into her position, Lucasfilm sold Disney for $4 billion, prompting Lucas to pack his bags and retire. Kennedy made her mark at the studio by relaunching the Star Wars universe with J.J. Abrams' Star Wars The Force Awakens. And while the film banked $2 billion globally, the reset was ill-received by many longtime franchise fans. Regardless of the bellyaching, Kennedy pressed onward with 2 more entries in the core series, The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. And those didn't go too well. Kennedy took the Star Wars franchise in a questionable direction creatively and financially throughout her tenure. She fired Chris Lord and Phil Miller partway through the filming of Solo: A Star Wars Story, pushed Gareth Edwards away from Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, then hired Tony Gilroy, whose efforts to organize the reshoots were hampered by the work already completed on the film, creating a confusing atmosphere. Star Wars recouped some of its popularity and appeal on Disney Plus with The Mandalorian, which lasted for 3 seasons, and a feature film is on the way with The Mandalorian and Grogu, but the rest hasn't been too good. Kathleen Kennedy's career at Lucasfilm has had its share of ups and downs, but her mark on many of pop culture's most beloved franchises is undeniable. And that's where we're going to stop this article, because I am not going to read some guy blow Kathleen Kennedy over her legacy. Too late. I'm not mad because this is the best Star Wars news a fan could get these days. The Emperor is dead. Well, stepping down. Now, if I had $1 every time the fandom heard Kennedy was on her way out over the years, I could have bought Disney and personally booted her candy ass out years ago. But now, as reports confirm that Kennedy is set to retire by the end of 2025, all I can do is laugh. Why? Is it the sheer joy that Star Wars is saved? Hell no! That damage is done. Star Wars is the rotting corpse we all joke about, and she, Kathleen Kennedy, is just stepping over it on her way out the door. Now, the article and some people want to be honest and paint Kathleen Kennedy's tenure as having its ups and downs, but I can't think of any ups outside of The Force Awakens box office. It grossed over $2 billion, which is great, but it's not like the movie cost $500 million to make or anything, or is secretly the most expensive film ever. No, we don't talk about that. Honestly, there's nothing to do besides laugh at the absurdity of this situation. Kathleen Kennedy is the dream story. It's the story of a personal assistant rising to power and screwing it up when she reaches the top. She got her golden ticket in 2012 when George Lucas himself picked her to lead the Empire and had the opportunity of a lifetime to take Star Wars and elevate it. But what did we get? A trilogy so bad it made the prequels look good. Films that are so garbage The Phantom Menace looks like The Godfather by comparison. There was no plan, there was no vision, just a checklist of nostalgia bait, forced diversity, and utter assassinations of our favorite beloved characters. Luke Skywalker, don't even get me started. He's a bitter old hermit who drinks green titty milk. Han Solo, everyone's favorite space pirate, he's a deadbeat dad who got shanked by his emo son. And Princess Leia can fly through the air like she's Mary Poppins, y'all. This was Kathleen Kennedy's grand vision, tearing down all the heroes that we like and propping up new characters so devoid of personality that they'd have more depth as Funko Pops. And don't even get me started on the toys. All of the toys that do not sell have come from the Kathleen Kennedy era. You go into Ollie's, you see the Revas, you see the Mays, you see the Oshas. Sorry, I'm from the future. But you see all of these failures, they come from Kathleen Kennedy. And it's not just that sequel trilogy. Solo, that was a mistake. Don't forget the Disney Plus shows, those were mistakes too. And after years of creative failures, fractured fan relations, and dwindling interest, Kathleen Kennedy is stepping out. It's great, but again, it's not some kind of victory for Star Wars fans. The franchise is already dead. Star Wars, sadly, isn't the cultural juggernaut it once was. It's just a meme, a cautionary tale of greed and soulless storytelling. And Kathleen Kennedy is the winner of it all. She'll leave with millions, she'll leave with awards, she'll leave with praise. And Disney will probably appoint some other studio yes man who will continue the cycle of mediocrity. So of course, we're all saved, we're dancing in the streets. The once great galaxy far, far away is now just a lifeless husk, a product of idiots and nostalgia, and the fans have given up hope. Star Wars is beyond saving, but I could have told you this a long time ago. All of those canceled projects, they spelled doom for Star Wars. Where's Rogue Squadron? Where's the Rian Johnson trilogy? And what about the Benioff and Weiss films that got canceled? They put the cart before the horse every time. And the stuff that does get made, like The Skeleton Crew, which is a show nobody asked for, it limped towards release and no one talked about it. What everyone did talk about, though, was The Acolyte and how terrible it was. Kathleen Kennedy claimed that it would be a feminist Star Wars show, but it was plagued by behind-the-scenes drama and chaos. But Kathleen Kennedy's the helm of all this, so we know who to blame. Don't forget that all the anti-fan sentiment that came from Lucasfilm was allowed under Kathleen Kennedy's tenure. While Kathleen Kennedy definitely ruined Star Wars, she also ruined Indiana Jones. Last year's Dial of Destiny wasn't just a failure, it was a full-blown, record-breaking embarrassment that should have sent Kathleen Kennedy packing immediately, but somehow she held on to her job almost 2 years later. The disaster known as Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny cost an astounding $300 million to make, which didn't include marketing, and couldn't even crack $400 million at the global box office. For a series as legendary as Indiana Jones, that's not just a flop, that's an implosion of the entire brand. It lost Disney and Lucasfilm well over $100 million, making it one of the biggest box office bombs ever. Audiences had already been wary after Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but somehow, instead of learning from past mistakes, Kennedy doubled down and turned Indy's final adventure into a terrible, CGI-filled mess that no one wanted, full of characters that you wouldn't remember by the time the credits rolled. The marketing was stupid. It practically screamed, "Please watch our movie, all we got is nostalgia." And fans, they stayed at home. Nostalgia just doesn't do it anymore. And again, who do we have to thank for this monumental failure? Kathleen Kennedy. As the president, she had one job: to protect and properly manage George Lucas's legacy. Instead, she ran it into the ground with an obsession over modernizing all of these films at the expense of everything that made them beloved in the first place. The Dial of Destiny took Indiana Jones, one of the greatest cinematic heroes of all time, and turned him into a sad, broken, whimpering old man, wanting to be replaced by his smug goddaughter, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, or Poob as we call her around here. The film was full of unnecessary political messaging, boring action scenes, and a story so unmemorable that audiences checked out before the film even began. The sad truth is, Indiana Jones deserves better, but under Kennedy's reign, it never had a chance. If anything, the Dial of Destiny was her final, undeniable proof of incompetence. The exclamation point on her legacy of mismanagement. And now that she's finally on her way out, all we can do is ask, why did it take Lucasfilm this long to realize the damage she was doing? They had to know, but it must be worse to fire a powerful woman. Studio politics are absolute trash. So yes, I'll finally enjoy Kathleen Kennedy leaving. Finally. I've only been hearing about it since the last Trump term. So you gotta understand why I feel the way I do. It's caused me a lot of problems. And because of that, I'm going to revel in the fact that the person most responsible for Star Wars' demise is finally being shown the door. But let's be honest, she's choosing to leave. No one is forcing her out. There isn't all this behind-the-scenes drama. There aren't battles for Lucasfilm. People aren't fearing for their lives. I'm sorry, all of that hype that you've been sold for all these years, that's fake. It's just old people behind the scenes. However, her departure is a decade too late, and the damage is done. Star Wars isn't coming back. Disney will try to milk your nostalgia glands, but the milk's gone bad, Charlie Murphy. Let's give this shit 4 thumbs down. I wish I had some wise words to keep you warm and fuzzy, but I lived through all of this, and the damage is done. We still have our memories. They can't take those away from us yet. But until they do, remember Star Wars as that fun, bright spot in your childhood, filled with imagination, toys, spaceships, drama, lightsabers. All of those things bring back great memories. If you were a kid in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, you loved Star Wars. And if you grew up in the 2000s and beyond, you had the prequel trilogy. And while not as good as the original, not as bad as the sequels. So, folks, I want to know what you think about this. There are a lot of people talking about this because this is a big news story. Everybody who's anybody has wanted Kathleen Kennedy out because she is the woman who ruined Star Wars. And now it's here, and well, let's figure out what's next. So, folks, I know what's next for me, and that's Stealing Solo 2. Be on the lookout for that. That book is in production right now, and I'll be funding it in about a month. So be on the lookout for that. The story this time, remember that group of disgruntled Star Wars fans that kidnapped Harrison Ford and forced him to remake Star Wars in their basement? Well, this time the role is reversed, as the lunatic known as Mark Hamill has kidnapped our kidnappers and is forcing them to remake the film in his image. Why? Because he can't let Harrison Ford upstage him, even in death. So, folks, you want to read Stealing Solo 2, The Force Awakens, and you definitely want to read Stealing Solo, A Captain's Parody. That book is almost gone, so if you haven't read it for some reason, go to stealingsolo.com to get yourself a copy of the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs, and be on the lookout for the sequel coming very, very soon. I'm very excited about it, I'm very proud of the work, and I can't wait for you guys to read everything that I put out. So until next time, folks, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.